Welcome to Friends with Fertility, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of fertility, reproductive health, and all the emotional journeys that are in between. I'm your host, Elizabeth King, a fertility expert dedicated to providing you with the knowledge, support, and inspiration you need on your path to parenthood. Whether you're just starting out, exploring your options, or looking for solidarity and advice, we are here for you. Let's embark on this journey together and turn uncertainty into empowerment and make friends with fertility. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to Friends with Fertility. Today we have Jullin Fjeldstad here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me join you.
I will read you a little bit about her bio so you can get to know what we're about to dive into. She began her fertility career at the Victoria Fertility Centre in 2007, quickly becoming a senior embryologist and successfully holding the position of laboratory director for several years. She has a BSc in biology from the University of Victoria, Canada, and an MSc in clinical embryology from the University of Leeds in the UK, achieving distinction in both areas. She has always held a passion for innovative assisted reproductive technologies aimed at improving the fertility journey and the quality for the outcome of IVF patients. Today, Jullin is the head of clinical embryology and scientific operations for Future Fertility, and she works closely with partnering clinics to ensure smooth onboarding of innovative AI-based tools with their laboratories. Additionally, she oversees Future Fertility's scientific project collaborations, bringing research findings to international fertility conferences, which is how I connected with Jullin. So we met at, I don't think we actually physically met, but we were both at the Fertility Care Awards, and I saw what you guys were doing, and I was like, oh my gosh, I said to my team, we need to talk to them about this. So I can't believe it's been so long since we were there, but I'm really excited to have this conversation because AI in fertility is still pretty new and people have no idea what that even means. I was just at ASRM myself a couple weeks ago here, and still there's not a lot in content at these conferences that are talking about that. So, first of all, what does that mean when we are saying AI in relation to fertility?
I think it means a bunch of different things. And I think it's wonderful how we have been able to connect through these conferences and word is getting out regarding our technology and what we do. But I think AI can be applied in so many different parts of the IVF cycle. So, whether that's from stimulation protocols and, ensuring that we can sort of optimize those protocols more specific for the patient at hand, utilizing the data that's being collected on a daily basis within our clinics and our labs. So there's so much data within the electronic medical records, there's imaging data that's being collected, and I think AI can be applied to so many of those areas where right now it's a very manual process and there's so many patients that we want to assist and see that we don't always have time as lab directors, or even if we have people dedicated to go through that data, it takes a long time to process it and understand what that data is telling you with regards to the outcome. So you can utilize AI to help us do that. And that's what we've done with Future Fertility. So our co-founder, our chief medical officer, Dr. Dan Nayot, wanted to apply AI to the oocyte because the egg is really a part of the IVF cycle that we don't know a lot about. As embryologists, we haven't been able to assess an egg, look at the egg quality under the microscope and say, oh, I see this feature within the egg or this dysmorphism. So, something that looks, unusual about the egg and how does that correlate to the outcome? So unlike sperm and embryos that we can assess, we just haven't been able to do that with the egg. So applying AI to it to try to help answer this question that not only did Dr. Danielle have, but the patients have. When patients wake up from an egg retrieval, some of the first things that they ask is, how many eggs do I have and what is their egg quality? Applying AI in ways that it helps us do something that we either couldn't do or it helps us do something more efficiently. And so with Future Fertility, we're doing something that we haven't been able to do, and that's assess egg quality.
And so let's start there. What does that look like? So I will use myself as an example. I think I got 13 eggs retrieved when I did it, and 11 were able to be frozen. And at that time, they said 11 were mature and healthy. And then that was it. They were frozen for a few years until I went to use them again and then fertilize them. So at that point, how would that go differently now if I were to go in to do a retrieval?
So, if your clinic has our technology, what we're able to do is just provide added insight. So, exactly what your clinic did was correct, and that's what many clinics are doing around the world. It's like, okay, you've got 13 eggs, 11 were mature, we froze them as far as we can tell. They look good, they look healthy, but we really just don't have the insights to tell you more. And I often found, as a lab director and embryologist, as myself in the past, was it didn't feel like a lot of closure. The patient's leaving with little information. But now, if they have Future Fertility's technology, which is presented in two formats. It's called a violet report or a magenta report, depending on the type of patient. So if you're an egg freezing patient and you can obtain a violet report, what we do is we assess just a 2D single image of your oocytes. So the lab will take an image at the time just prior to freezing. So once the egg is ready for freezing, those mature eggs, we take an image. It's non-invasive, and our system can analyze that egg, and it compares it to our system of, our AI model that has seen more than 150,000 oocyte images, so egg images, and their reproductive outcomes. So did it fertilize? Did it become a blastocyst? And it can now see a new image and give it sort of a quality score or a prediction of its likelihood to develop into a blastocyst. So, if you're a 36-year-old with 11 eggs, you might be able to go online and look at an online egg calculator that'll say, okay, you're 36, you've got 11 eggs, this is your chance of live birth. But it treats you as the same as every other 36-year-old with 11 eggs. And we know that not everyone's going to have the same quality of eggs. There's always going to be a range. Some 36-year-olds might have higher quality eggs than the next 36-year-old. Everyone has different medical histories, those sorts of things. But now the AI can provide a personalized assessment. And we know that every egg within the cohort that you've retrieved are also different. So not every egg within your cohort, all 11, are not the same. So now we can provide a report on this. You receive images of your eggs along with our predictions or our AI scores. And we can give you a more personalized probability of blastocyst development from these eggs, as well as your personalized chance of live birth. So it gives you added insight and information to be able to speak with your clinicians and your healthcare team. Is this sufficient? Is this within normal ranges, what we would expect for other 36-year-olds? Should I freeze more eggs? I think if freezing more eggs isn't really a possibility due to financial costs and those sorts of things, then maybe also it gives you the insight, if your egg quality is lower, to maybe not wait so long to start a family if you really think that's in your future. So it gives you more information to work with than what a lot of patients are currently leaving the fertility clinics with.
I think it's amazing. I was watching a presentation on AI and how it uh, decodes the information, and I think it said it was at least 10 times faster in getting the information than a human may be, and more accurate, of course, which when you're dealing with these sorts of things makes a difference when you're looking to see what are my chances of this. For me, when I went to go use my eggs, our big issue came at the thaw. So we lost 8 out of the 11 just from not thawing well. So where does that fall into the process of, because obviously at that point they're not even getting to a blastocyst. Does AI predict even that, or is that under the umbrella of the getting to blast?
Something that we still want to sort of unpack further and understand more fully as we gain more data from our collaborating clinics and research projects and stuff like that as well. We want to understand, can the AI sort of predict that, or see the eggs that might not be of higher quality? So, potentially, if we had done the AI assessment, would it have indicated that your eggs were of lower quality than we would have hoped? So those are things that we want to understand better. And if we can sort of help prevent those sorts of situations by understanding that ahead of time versus waiting 5 years or whatever it might be, and finding out at thaw that they weren't as good a quality as we expected, and then they don't do so well with that freezing thawing process.
And do we consider the reason of not making the thaw because of the bad egg quality, or just like sometimes it thaws okay and sometimes it doesn't, just depending on how it goes? Is there a correlation between quality or not necessarily? I would imagine that we kind of don't really know that.
I think that's, again, something that we're still trying to understand more. I think technology has come a long way with egg freezing than it was, several years ago with the advent of vitrification, which is like a fast freezing that clinics have moved towards. It's really made it possible to freeze eggs. An egg is a single cell, so you just have one shot if it doesn't survive. And we expect, even within our reports and the technology, that some eggs are not going to survive that freezing thawing process. And so we account for that when we're trying to give you your predicted live birth rates. And again, it also depends on, the skills of the lab and all sorts of different things. There's so many things that need to go right for that egg thaw to go well, but definitely I think egg quality is going to play into to how well those eggs react or respond to both the freezing portion as well as the warming portion when you go to utilize them.
Is our clinics jumping on board on this to say, we want this technology so that we can give our patients this scale of magenta or violet of where they are on that? Or are they hesitant to say, because I know AI in general is kind of one of those things that people are either on board with or they're really like, I don't know about this, you know? So where are you finding this community in clinics that are they receptive to it? Or are they still questioning the process?
I say it's going to change. It's changed a lot since when I started. So I've been with Future Fertility for over probably 3.5 years now. And when we first started, there was a lot of hesitation. AI was a new word, definitely a buzz term. And now that so much has come out with AI, even with like the chat GPTs and all these sorts of things, and realizing that it's part of our everyday lives now, I think perceptions have changed a lot, and people are way more willing to uptake AI technology within the lab. It's not taking away jobs. It's not the AI making all the decisions and those sorts of things that might have been fears previously. Fertility is now available in clinics globally. So around the world, we're actually installed in about 180 now. In fact, so it's really exploded from where we first started. And clinics are understanding that understanding your egg quality really adds that final piece to the puzzle when you're doing that IVF process. We assess sperm, we can assess embryos and apply grades to them, but understanding, one of the major building blocks of your embryos is your eggs, and having those added insights, hugely beneficial. And patients are really appreciating sort of the insights that we're able to finally provide.
I would agree because even today, before this podcast, I was on a call with a 43-year-old patient. And right out the gate, they always say, well, you're 43 years old, your eggs are not going to be good, right? Having had children over 40 naturally, I kind of think, well, there's some truth to that, but there's also exceptions, right? I was an exception that I was able to have 3 children over 40 that are healthy. So how are we seeing the progression, I guess, in doctors and able to be making those blanket statements like, oh, Julian, you're 35, so your eggs are probably much more healthy than the next person who's 45. Yes, but we also, to your point earlier, don't know your lifestyle and the health and the whatever. Perhaps the 45-year-old is healthier. Do you think AI is going to be able to change any of that perception of women that are trying to get pregnant older, that they're just being turned away because of their age?
I'm hopeful that we can sort of move towards more of a personalized medicine where we're treating the individual and not just sort of making blanket statements, like you said. I think definitely there's going to be those 40 plus women that do have great quality eggs. You might not have many of them. Or even if you have a number of eggs, you may have some really top quality eggs within that cohort. And it's just a matter of finding them. So, does our technology help indicate which are the best eggs, give you some more insight as to your quality versus a 35-year-old? I think there are going to be differences, and there's differences in all of our genetics and, like I said, medical histories, lifestyle factors, all those sorts of things that are going to impact our egg quality. So, on a general level, yes, a 35-year-old probably has better eggs than a 42-year-old. But on a personal level and within the cohort of eggs that you retrieve, there's going to be variations there. So, understanding that better, and being able to potentially tailor your treatment specific to you or the patient at hand. And hopefully that's what AI is able to do. Even with our technology as well, we're seeing that egg scores and predictions that we're providing are correlating with not only blastocyst development, but we're seeing them correlate with implantation and the euploidy status of the resulting embryos. So, how genetically normal are these eggs that are creating the embryos, which is pretty impressive, at least in my eyes. I'm a bit biased.
Yeah, I mean, it is, especially if you are somebody that I always say I like to geek out on this stuff, that it's fascinating to me that these are even options for us to be having a conversation about this because, when PGT testing and all of that was first out, it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's going to change the whole game of how embryos are put back in and live births and everything, which it does, it has. but I feel like this is taking another step back even before that round of getting there, which is going to be so helpful to so many people.
I think also more affordable and less invasive, with the beautiful embryos that we're trying to create and those sorts of things, and just giving you those added insights at one of the first stages of the IVF process as well, so it can help manage those expectations and next steps.
Right. So if a patient is at a clinic and they're not quite using Future Fertility now, but they're listening to this podcast perhaps and they're like, "Ugh, I want to know that. I want to do this." How would they go about figuring that out for either the clinic they're at and or moving to a clinic that offers this?
So we on our website we do list the clinics that we are integrated with, so that those that do have our technology. So futurefertility.com, so you can take a look there, see if we have a clinic near you. Most of our clinics are Canada, in the Latam area, Mexico, as well as in Europe, Spain, the UK, and so forth. We have a few within the US, still mostly on a scientific research basis, but I think asking your clinic about the technology, making more people aware that the technology is available is helpful as well. Or seeking out, one of our clinics that does already have our technology is a great option.
Awesome. And what questions might patients have around this when they are starting to look into this?
I think a lot of questions might be, is it invasive? How is my personal information handled? All those sorts of things. So it's non-invasive. It's just an image that the clinic then sends to us. So a single image of each of the oocytes or eggs prior to either vitrification or prior to ICSI. So they do need to be eggs that are what we call denuded. So there's little cells around the eggs when we retrieve them. Those need to be removed so that we can get that good image. This is a normal process if you're going through intracytoplasmic sperm injection, so ICSI, or egg freezing.
Mhm.
Um, so it's non-invasive. Images are often taken within the lab on a regular basis of eggs and embryos. Anything that we see that's unusual, maybe ahead of transfer, they get a picture of what they're transferring.
So the embryologist at the clinic that is the retrieval is happening is the one that's going to be taking the image and then they send it to you guys?
Exactly. So it
So
happens
is
all
there
in.
any kind of room for error there? Is it possible that that embryologist or whoever's taking the picture can mess up on that and so the information you guys get is wrong, or is it just pretty straightforward and there's no error in that?
It's usually pretty user friendly. We do a thorough onboarding with all of our clinics, ensure that they understand how to take the best images. There's obviously, image, backup and saving to make sure that we have those available. If there's patients that they don't know if they want the AI applied, they can always take the image and save them and retrospectively create a report for a patient. So that's also an option that we want clinics utilizing, because it might be your cycle fails or something and you really wish you had those insights. So to
Mhm.
be able to do it after. But I think with all of these sort of steps and processes with our onboarding, the embryologists are quite competent in taking images and taking good care of what they're working with, the material. That's first and foremost in everything that they do. So, the image process is a quick step within their regular workflow. Sometimes the images can also come out of the time lapse system. So there's actually no extra steps. So if clinics incubate within a time lapse system where images are already taken or can be retrieved from that time lapse system, those images can also be sent to us. So there's no extra steps in the workflow or process. So it's quite simple. And then all patient information, anything that's personalized information isn't sent to us. Basically, we just have the patient age to assist the AI model in the assessment.
Mhm.
Um, but patient name, date of birth, those sorts of things aren't sent to or kept on file with Future Fertility. So the AI, we want to make sure again we're not sharing patient private information and so forth, and making that secure.
So is age the only common denominator in the AI process in this case?
It's one of the clinical features that is added into the model and is taken into account in addition to the image. So most of the information comes from the image. There's grayscale pixels, patterns, all sorts of things within the image that the AI picks up on that we just can't do as an embryologist. There's too much information there.
Mhm.
Sometimes we add clinical features into the model as well. So things like patient age. We also utilize total number of mature oocytes that have been retrieved. So total number of mature eggs that are retrieved also goes into the model to make our prediction. So we know that as we age, unfortunately, the genetic material within our eggs, the chromosomes and stuff like that, does change, and we're going to have less genetically normal eggs as we age. So that is part of the AI sort of goes into the analysis, but very few other clinical features go in just so that we don't make it too complicated for the lab to have all of the information and details to provide the assessment.
And where do they access this assessment, the violet and magenta? Is it just those two options of reports?
Yes, so right now, Violet is specific for the egg freezing patient. And as I indicated, it gives like a not only the assessment of each individual egg, it gives a probability of blastocyst development, what we expect post thawing. So, some statistics in there for freezing and thawing rates. We know that an egg that's been frozen thawed may not behave exactly the same as a fresh egg. And we give the live birth prediction. Versus magenta is for the IVF ICSI patient, and it provides more of a score. So exactly the same AI model, just presented in two different ways, depending on the type of patient that is utilizing it and how the lab or clinic might utilize those results.
And is that in a portal that they log into to get that report, or does the clinic give that to them? How does that work?
Great question. We leave it up to the clinics to sort of determine how best to share these reports with the patient. So, a lot of clinics are utilizing it in either follow up call to the patient. They might be sending them via email to the patient. We do have a patient portal, so if the clinic wishes for it to be sent to the patient through that method, the clinic can provide the patient with a secure login access and be able to view their report in their own time within that portal as well.
And AI in itself, well, it actually isn't that new, right? It was first, I think, in the 70s is when AI first came about. It's newer as a normal topic of conversation in the world that we live in today. But how do we know that we can trust this algorithm and the software in this?
I think it really comes down to good practices, good AI practices, and so forth. And what we've done to sort of aid in this is ensuring that we have a very large data set. For one, that's super important. We are the first AI company to assess the oocyte or egg, and a data set of more than 150,000 oocyte images and their outcomes, as I indicated. So, that's sort of first step, really important. We want it to be diverse and a robust data set as well. So, including patients globally from around the world, many countries involved in the development of this model and the images that we acquire so that it can be applicable on a general or broad level, as well as many different clinics that are providing these images and outcomes. So then it can be applicable to a new clinic that the model hasn't seen. Research. So we have done a lot of research to back what our AI model is predicting or the scores that we're providing. So in this year alone, in 2024, we've been involved in more than 15 scientific studies that have been presented at international reproductive medicine conferences. We have two scientifically published research papers as well, so indicating how the model was built, the data utilized to build that model, and so forth. So they're peer reviewed. So I think making sure that all of these things are in process when you go to utilize an AI like this, especially when it's used in healthcare settings, is
Mhm.
really important.
Yeah. And I just want to say too, I think people sometimes are hesitant when we come into new technology of, oh my goodness, what is this going to mean to the world of fertility and or whatnot. I'm thinking right now with even robotic laparoscopic surgery, right? That was like a big, oh my gosh, you're gonna have a robot do the surgery and how's that gonna be? And I know when I did my mectomy, my RE had suggested that I go to this gynecological oncologist specifically because of the tools that he was using because they were advanced in this way. And I think that sometimes embracing technology in ways that seem unknown to us can actually put you ahead of the game in a lot of ways. So maybe walking in that place of just trusting the process and trusting the science and trusting that there are people behind this, live people that are working to make it so that you can have better outcomes. And I know in this world of fertility, it is so emotional. And so the more things we can take out of the process of having less unknowns in the process is huge. If we can make that attrition rate go down at all because we know the level and quality of the eggs going into a fertilization, amazing. Because I think that that's one of the big things that people don't understand. They think they're going to finally sign up for IVF and go down this road and do a retrieval and everything, and they're going to have their baby in the end, but they don't recognize all the steps along the way to get there. And if we can start out the gate with having an analyzation of your eggs, of what your potential for a live birth, that will ease a lot of nerves for people going into less unknowns than they would have before. So I think it's great. I would have loved to have this as something to be tested on myself when I was going through it. I think it's very cool. What do you see, or where do you see AI going in the future of fertility outside of this?
I think, sort of maybe as I mentioned at the beginning of our chat, is just that there's so much information in our clinics and labs and in the EMR systems and maybe stuck in Excel databases and stuff like that, that utilizing all of this just to really improve, the patient experience and the outcomes that we're seeing. IVF is not very efficient. Unfortunately, you need a lot of eggs usually and quite a few embryos to create one beautiful baby. So I think if there's ways to improve our processes, to reduce that time to pregnancy by utilizing all this data and using AI to assist us to do these things that we haven't been able to do before, I'm hopeful that it's just going to make us be able to see even more patients and to have more success stories right away instead of several cycles in. If understanding your egg quality at the start aided in the decision making process or decided to change different protocols and these sorts of things, I think it can just really improve the patient process. Also, adding transparency and helping to sort of manage those expectations and have more thorough discussions with your clinicians and stuff like that. So I think that AI applied in any part of the journey, my hope is that it's going to be super helpful and to increase our success rates overall and the patient experience.
Could not agree more. And I think if you don't mind, we would love to have the links to the journals and whatever has been published to put into the notes here, because for somebody like me who loves to learn about all of this stuff, I think it's good to know, and it's so fascinating and interesting to see what studies and the research that has been done, and it helps us to spread the word that this is a thing and it's available to you, and you just need to figure out where you can go to have those reports done for you when you do your retrievals, and see how it goes for your future with your planning of your family, which I think is amazing. Any last words for somebody who might be listening going down this road that is considering looking into AI and how it might assist in their future family?
I think definitely having an open mind, understanding the technology to a degree, of course, for patients that you're not going to understand at the same level that I do. But if there is research behind it, it's worth looking that up, and we'll gladly share a link to all of our research. It's available on our website. But understanding that usually the human is not taken out of it. It's usually the professionals that are trying to help develop this to streamline our processes and to make things better for the patient. So our technology, especially, is developed by embryologists and clinicians, and not just some of course we have the data scientists involved and everything like that, but we really understand the processes. So I think embracing it to some degree. Of course you're going to have questions, but I think also bringing it up with your fertility professionals, and do they use AI, and understanding that better, and how that might aid and help your cycle.
Right. Well, thank you again for being here. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for AI and fertility, and what future fertility is bringing up into the scene. Thanks
Thank
for
you so
being
much.
here.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure. I'm so glad to share about our research and our technology.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Friends with Fertility. We hope that you found the stories, insights, and tips as inspiring and informative as we did. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. Your friends with fertility are here for you. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and more fertility resources. Until next time, stay hopeful and keep believing in your journey, and know that we are sending you lots of love.